Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to Newzim TV. My name is Kostan Komo, and this is the agenda on a Monday. Now, Zimbabwe is 18 days away from the July 31st protest organized by Transform Zimbabwe President Jacob Ngaruvume. Ngaruvume has emphasized observing peace during this protest. He has also dared the police to say, with or without their approval, this protest will still proceed. But however, there are questions that the public is asking. What is the net product of this protest and the context in which this protest will be happening? Because you remember that the world over, now the focus is on fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, and Zimbabwe has recorded 18 deaths and the cases clocks nearly 1,000 mark now. So we are about to discuss about this, the consequences and the implications of this demonstration. My guest for today is Transform Zimbabwe President Jacob Ngaruvume. Mr. Ngaruvume, I must welcome you to the agenda.
Thank you very much, Wangom.
Let me start by, you were part of the alliance, the MDC, in the run-up to the 2018 elections and during the elections. Your performance, your participation, and so far, would you just like to briefly take us through?
Yeah, thank you for welcoming me to this program. Yeah, yes, Transform Zimbabwe was part of the MDC alliance in 2018, and we participated in the 2018 elections on the MDC alliance ticket. And then after the elections, the National Executive of Transform Zimbabwe passed a resolution that we move out of the alliance and continue to build the party, so that should there be need, a resolution can always be passed again if that is okay with the leadership of the party, for us to re-engage with meaningful players in fighting for democracy in this country. So we appreciate a lot in terms of the value and the value addition that we gained from the alliance. You know, I would say it's like a value chain process whereby you feel you need to contribute to the political processes. And the alliance was a big platform, big national platform for us to input what we feel is the right way to go for our nation. So we don't at all regret our participation in the alliance. We had a lot of good experience, and we had a lot of things that we learned, which now we are better off because we picked it and pulled it from our engagement in the alliance.
Let's look at it. The votes, the performance of the alliance itself in the previous election, particularly the presidential performance. You know, Nelson Chamisa gathered more than 2 million votes. Now, why? Because what we have seen is that other parties, other partners of the alliance have come together to form one political party. Why was it so difficult for you to just join them and form one political party?
Yeah, I think in terms of Transform Zimbabwe, the decision really was not a condemnation of the alliance. Pulling out was only a way to say, let's continue to grow our structures so that we add value, you know, in the future. So the idea really is we acknowledge really the role the alliance played and the performance and so on. But the idea really was trying ourselves to say, how can we add more value? You know, one of the things is we realize that, you know, you need even an agenda that can unite the nation. And sometimes that agenda might not come from a political head. We've said, no, let's try to re-engage everybody so that, you know, we go even beyond political settings. You set an agenda that can draw traction beyond the political. Because when you draw agendas that can pull traction beyond the political. This is what you need in this country. The country has been so much divided that if you can't pull an agenda that can go across and cut across, then you might have a problem. So the idea really is to make sure that we continue to freely participate and engage different stakeholders in business, in civil society, in churches, labor, and so on. And of course, also the political parties. Now we can engage different political parties because we've worked in the alliance and we've interacted at one point in our days at NERA. We have interacted with most of the political players in this country. So it's easy for us to knock on doors and engage them. It's easy for us to knock on doors of labor because we have interacted with them. So it is that scope and landscape that we are now tapping into, trying to reach out to as many people as we can so that we build an agenda-driven process in this country.
There are two issues that I want to follow up on. 2023 elections is coming. Would you open your arms to welcome other partners or to join other partners if the call is made?
Yes, I should not be at all. I would not hesitate to say working with others. An evaluation will be made. We are reaching out, we are speaking and engaging different Zimbabweans. And if a call is made, I think it will be objectively dealt with. Because what we don't want is to occupy our space and feel that we have a space we are not prepared to share with others, which is what has killed us as a people and as a nation. Zimbabwe has people occupying their own spaces, which they are not prepared to share with others. And so us as Transform Zimbabwe, we are prepared to speak with whoever reach out to us, and we will make a decision that will make sure we will strengthen the democratic forces in this country, never to divide them.
Small thing. From your experience so far, do you see yourself gaining political currency and to the extent of winning the state power in election? Do you see yourself as the future Zimbabwean president?
Yes. The thing is, it's never about an individual. What Zimbabwe currently needs is not individuals. The individual mentality to say such and such need to be a leader, such and such cannot be leader, is what has gotten us to where we are. Whereby, for example, ZANU-PF feels they own this country, and if anybody is to lead it, it has to be only ZANU-PF. So when we are doing the initiatives that we are doing, when we are engaging in the alliance, remember in 2018, I didn't even run for president because we realized that no, there's somebody we can support, another candidate that stands a better chance. So we made an evaluation and said, right, the MDC Alliance is the best place to be. And we're in full support of the presidents of Nelson Chamisa. We absolutely felt that is the way to go, and we did it. So even come 2023, an evaluation, an honest evaluation will be done by Transform Zimbabwe to say, what do we think is the best way forward? Who do we think is the best way forward? And of course, guided by also that which is coming from the ground. The people of Zimbabwe themselves, they need to guide us in terms of the decision. So it's never about prefixing to say, if Jacob Ngaruvume is not the presidential candidate in 2023, then I'm not going to vote or I'm not going to support anyone else who is not Jacob Ngaruvume. It's not about that. Our attitude right now is to say, let's make sure that as democratic forces, we do the best that we need to make sure that we win in 2023.
I want us to discuss about the topical issue, the 31st July protest. But maybe just before that, because you seem to have an appreciation of the influence of the opposition, the MDC alliance. Now, my question will be to you. They don't recognize President Emmerson Mnangagwa to date. It's in almost 3 years now after the elections. Do you share the same sentiments with them?
So I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of the MDC Alliance. Honestly, I think that topic, I would say, I don't want to speak on behalf of the MDC Alliance. They are better off speaking themselves about that position so that I steer clear of legitimate issues around different political players in this country.
But you yourself, do you recognize the president?
That's a question I would answer another day.
Okay, let's look at the 31st of July protest. It is gaining currents on social media. I'm a journalist. I'm following this and observing all this. Would you like to tell us what is it in this day? What is going to happen?
Yes. Thank you very much for that one. So you are aware that You know, this started as an anti-corruption drive, whereby we said, you know, the people of Zimbabwe are tired of corruption in this country. Corruption has killed us as a people. Corruption has killed our capacity to develop and move the nation forward. So we're saying, let's speak out against corruption from our different stakeholders' point of view. And we all are agreed that we need to take a stand against corruption in this country. So now, when I made the initial announcement on the 28th of June that I'm calling for a national demonstration against corruption in this country, you know, let me be frank, the response was overwhelming. It was even beyond our wildest of imaginations that the people of Zimbabwe would come behind and support with one voice like they did. So now the initiative has been growing, different stakeholders stepping to say, this is the way to go, Vangari Vume. We are prepared to stand out and speak against corruption. We are prepared to stand out and say, let corruption go in this country. Looters who have looted this economy and this nation must go. You know, the bad leaders who have presided over the destruction of Zimbabwe must go. And that message has been very clear for us, that the people of Zimbabwe have resonated with the message to speak out against corruption.
I must agree with you that the issue of corruption is a shared concern countrywide. But there are critiques already, as you know, every politician do have. That this is your opportunity. You are taking it as an opportunity to revive your political fortunes after losing in the 2018 elections, and your relevance in the political world has dwindled. So you are now reviving your fortunes.
Yeah, it's critics are welcome, because normally they help you self-introspect and look at yourself to say, how can I improve myself from the criticism that I'm getting? But the issue of the 31st is not about Jacob Ngaruvume. It's not about Transform Zimbabwe. It's an issue that has been embraced by the whole nation. So I don't think the people of Zimbabwe are naive to the point that they would want to run with a matter which they want an individual to benefit out of. I think the issue of corruption has affected everybody in this country. That's why there's this national galvanization to support the initiative. It is because the people of Zimbabwe know that this issue goes way beyond an individual. It goes way beyond a political party. I mean, if anything, that's why I said at the beginning, when the announcement was made, yes, it was from our small team, but the buy-in became so big. And we have acknowledged, even ourselves, I have, as Jacob Ngaruvume, acknowledged that this issue and matter is now way beyond me. It's now about the people of Zimbabwe. The agenda is now driven by the people of Zimbabwe, and they'll take it to a point where they feel this is the best for them. So there is no effort at all to make this a personal gain for anybody. And if anything, this is about benefiting the people of Zimbabwe. And we're very much aware of that.
The response, Mr. Ngaruvume, must worry you in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. How are you going to make sure that the demonstrators, the protesters are safe from this world deadly pandemic of the COVID-19?
That's a very good one. So we are aware. So there are two scenarios I want to build. So the first one, we have this COVID-19 pandemic. So far to date, it has killed 12 people. Correct me if I'm correct. Is it still 12?
18, right?
We know it's 18. Thank you very much. So it has killed 18 people, right? And then on the other side, we have the corruption pandemic, which has impoverished millions of Zimbabweans, which has killed thousands upon thousands of Zimbabweans, which has left even our capacity to deal with COVID-19 seriously diminished. You talk of the drugs corruption whereby 60 million was looted, you know. And so when you look at our capacity and ability to deal with the COVID pandemic, it's seriously undermined by the corruption pandemic. So the people of Zimbabwe have simply made an evaluation and weighed A and B to say, we can't decide to fight only one pandemic currently, ignoring a pandemic which is cutting across. And so the people are saying, let's deal with the corruption pandemic at the same time dealing with the COVID pandemic. So that's number one. Then number two, we are aware of the COVID pandemic. And on the day of the demonstration itself, we are encouraging the people of Zimbabwe to come with their face masks, number one. We are encouraging them to come with their hand sanitizers second. And number 3, we are asking them to observe social distancing as they are marching. And we will also make sure we're encouraging them to say, if you have extra face masks, please bring them on board, so that should anybody come without a face mask, we can always share. We are Zimbabweans, we share our things. So we are aware and cognizant of the fact that we don't want to endanger people from the pandemic. And also on the day itself, we've decentralized the marches so that people in Glenview are marching, Pelantava, Mabvuku, Tafara, Sakuva, Danga Mvura, Ruveneko. People are marching from their communities, so that as they march from their communities, we are also making sure that they'll grow and build up in numbers that are manageable, to make sure that we don't risk them to COVID.
Let me just read to you what this Information Permanent Secretary Nick Mangwana wrote, posted on Twitter this morning. But if there was no, and I quoted, if there was no COVID-19 catastrophe, nobody would have a problem with an anti-corruption march. But to try to overthrow a constitutional order and replace it with an unelected minister is not democracy. It's lawlessness. Democracy does not work that way. This is the permanent secretary. Surely this should be a signal that 31st July could be chaotic.
He's entitled to his opinion. The people of Zimbabwe have made a decision to come together and speak out against corruption, demand that bad leaders go, looters to this economy go, and that must be respected. So in as much as he is entitled to his opinion, the people of Zimbabwe are also entitled to their opinion, to say, we want to come together and speak out against these specific needs and demands. And so the people have a right, and it is in our constitutional right, according to Section 59 of the Constitution. So we are protected also by the Constitution, which gives us a right to demonstrate and march. So there is absolutely no way the people of Zimbabwe would feel that maybe it's Nick Mangwana who has specific rights, whilst the people of Zimbabwe would not have specific rights.
There is another issue here, the issue of overthrowing a constitutional order. This is a serious accusation that could land you in jail.
So the thing is, number one, we are not afraid to end up in jail. But number 2, the question is, why would you say if people demand an end to corruption, if people demand looters to go, then Nick Mangwana would feel it's a demand to overthrow a constitutional government? Why would we think like that? So in other words, he's saying looting, bad governance, bad leadership is associated with government. So if you speak against them, then you are demanding that. So in other words, I think it's important for the people of Zimbabwe to remain resolute and focused on the issues that have been raised. And the people are very much focused on that. And we are going to go ahead and speak out, because we are agreed that it's time to speak out against corruption in this country. It's time to speak out against bad leadership and looters in this country.
Just like you, I may disagree with Nick Mangwana, but I understand where he is coming from, because you have suggested that the church and civil society stand ready to facilitate the process of establishing a national transition authority that is apolitical to guide Zimbabwe in this desperate hour. So he is suggesting that there is already a strategy to institute a new leadership that should govern this country, and that's why he is referring to unseating an elected government.
No, I mean, look here. The people of Zimbabwe are suffering. And life has been going horrible by day. And if the people of Zimbabwe, you see, again, this is going back to the people. Some Zimbabweans are making representation to say, you know what, maybe one political party has not managed to lead this country to the promised land, has not managed to govern properly this country, to move it out of the challenges that we find ourselves in. And honestly, why would Nick Mangwana and anybody in ZANU-PF think that as long as they are in power and life is deteriorating for the people of Zimbabwe, then they can do that and the people should keep quiet? That is the problem we have in this country, So if the people, some sections, some Zimbabweans, if not many, are suggesting that, we need an arrangement whereby The politicians come together, and the politicians, it's not defining who in politics. They're saying politicians need to come together with business, need to come together with civil society, churches and everybody, so that we sit and talk and map a way forward for this nation. And then if you hear that, then you suddenly feel good. Okay, there is space that is being invaded. So in other words, this country is owned by individuals. Exclusive individuals feel they have got an exclusive ownership to this country. This is a notion that we feel is not right in this country. Zimbabweans have every reason and right to also speak about how they want to move forward. And this is what we are representing.
There is a narrative that is forming on social media, Mr. Ngurumi. The ED must go. It's overwhelming on social media. And are you not afraid that some such people, some such elements who are pushing for the president to leave office will join your protest, and then the protest get out of hand?
See, so the people of Zimbabwe have a right to protest. And for us to stop the protests, because this is a whole nation converging on this issue of anti-corruption. And people are building it in a way and are interpreting it in a way that suits their constituents. But what we are saying is nobody should be afraid of the people of Zimbabwe making a representation of what they think. And people of Zimbabwe are very clear that they want people who are looting this economy to go, this nation down, people running down this economy, they want them to go. People who are running down this country, they want them to go. And that is important. And people have every reason and right to speak like that. They have every reason and right. So in other words, we can't then say, let's not get into the streets because people have got different interests in this country. That's the whole essence of governance. People have different interests, and people have a different way of interpreting who they are and what they want to see. So we are, this agenda is owned by the people of Zimbabwe. So people of Zimbabwe are speaking what they want from their own constituencies and from their way of expressing themselves. But the issues are very clear. This demonstration started as an anti-corruption demonstration, and that is the point. And that is the point the people of Zimbabwe want to push through on the 31st of July.
Mr. Ngurumi, let me get this clear. You want looters to go, and this is what this protest is all about. Does this equate to ZANU-PF leaving power?
If ZANU-PF are the looters of this country, if they are the ones who have been looting this country, and people are saying looters must go, then what do you want Ngurumi to say different from what the people are saying?
I'm asking you this because there have been lots of reports that it's about ZANU-PF must go, ED must go. So I just want to get it clear from you so that you state it to our viewers so that they have no questions about this protest. Is it only about corruption, or is the net product of it is you want ZANU-PF leaving?
You see, so the people of Zimbabwe are saying we are sick and tired of the corruption that has ruined this country. So whoever is busy propagating and protecting the corruption to stay in power and to entangle, it is an albatross around the people of Zimbabwe. And the people of Zimbabwe are saying whoever has created a situation which has become an albatross around the people of Zimbabwe, they must go. And you name it.
I'm here to see the significance of protests, how they can change the political settings in the country. Only and unless I can refer to the 2017 November protest where the military was involved. We also the tankers in the streets, and that's where political change happened in the form of Robert Mugabe resigning. Let's at least pretend to ignore the circumstances in which he tendered his resignation. So surely without the involvement of the security forces, there is doubt out there that these protests can change things.
So in other words, you are suggesting that the people power is not as strong as military power. Number one, so let me say, responding directly, the people of Zimbabwe are not necessarily speaking out against the military of this country. The military institution of this country represents Zimbabweans. So we don't want a notion to associate the military authorities of this country with ZANU-PF. The Zimbabwe Defense Forces are for everybody. That is our understanding. And they are not, the idea is that the people of Zimbabwe are not demonstrating against the military on this day, and there's not been provocation against the military necessarily. The people of Zimbabwe have raised issues they are speaking out against. And it is up to the military of Zimbabwe to stand on the side of the people. And we honestly hope and sincerely hope that they will be able to stand on the side of the people of Zimbabwe.
Mr. Garufumi, I just want to get this clear, more clear from you. We know for the past 2 decades, since 2000, the birth of the vibrant opposition, if I can use those terms, that there have been protests in the streets. Protest after protest, one led by the opposition party founding father, the late Dr. Richard Mugabe, his soul rest in peace. But even 20 years later, there have been no results on the ground. Out of these protests, what's so significant, what's so peculiar about this July 31st protest?
So let's wait and see what happens, what we achieve on the 31st. I think it will be good for you and I to have another conversation after the 31st to look and evaluate the success of the demonstration. Because now, honestly, you can see the buy-in and how this has become such a huge national movement whereby people are speaking about it and are in support of it. So let's wait and see what happens on the 31st.
Let me find out something from you. On the 31st, this was a proposed date for the MDCT Extraordinary Congress. And there have been accusations. They have accused you of plotting to disrupt their Extraordinary Congress. Are you not afraid that this demonstration can be hijacked by the MDC alliance and use it to score their own political goals?
So, we announced the date of the demonstration on the 28th of June in 2020. And then we announced it. And then the Congress of the MDCT Congress was only announced on the 30th, I think. And it's on record. You can check on my Twitter handle. The anti-corruption demonstration was announced on the 28th. And then, for us then to try to delve into differences within political parties and what have you, this is not the mandate here. And for your own information, we are even not comfortable. I don't see where these things converge. We've called for a national demonstration against corruption, and they can go on with their Congress. I mean, I don't even see how. And by the way, is it a virtual Congress or it's something else? It's a physical meeting. I don't even know.
No, well, the factions are not just restricted to the opposition. We also read in the newspapers that there are also factions in the ZANU-PF. So I'm referring to another faction manipulating your demonstration, and then things go out of control. You're not afraid that this demonstration can be hijacked?
The people of Zimbabwe are disciplined. The people of Zimbabwe are disciplined such that they don't want violence on the day. And wait and see the peace and the love the people of Zimbabwe will show on the day. There is absolutely no intention to be violent. There is no need for any Zimbabwean to be violent to push through their agenda. Their agenda is simple, and there is no intention to be violent on the day. That is the point. That is the point. I'm meeting Zimbabweans on the ground every day. I'm speaking to people who are saying this is the way to go. There's not even a single Zimbabweans who feel that violence should be part of the deal. Who should want to be violent in this country, and what will violence achieve? So we are very much aware of people who want to actually sponsor violence on the day. It's not even us, the conveners or the people who are supporting the initiative. I think it's our detractors, people who don't want to see corruption end in this country. Those are the people who are saying they want to see violence so that this thing flops. But we'll make sure that the people of Zimbabwe are resolute on the message and we are not diverted.
Let me just, you have heard, I'll go back from, but you have heard what the ZANU-PF political coordinator, Victor Mandanda, said about the canisters spreading the COVID-19 pandemic.
And even to comment about such stupid assertions that we have canisters to spread COVID-19 and so on. I mean, it will give credibility to statements that are completely false and completely untrue and there's no ingenuity even in the lying itself. I mean, why would we, being affected by poverty in this country and the rundown of the economy, why would we want to see COVID spread? So it's completely unfounded, completely baseless, and I think it's a way again to manipulate the narrative. It's a way to rebuild and divert the narrative so that they can try to rally behind and unite themselves to resist the people on the 31st, which is unfortunate and it won't work. The narrative is clear what the people are demanding for, and we are sticking to the message, and the people of Zimbabwe are very clear about the message.
You're also accused of being funded by the Americans.
Crazy. You see, so now they want to say Zimbabweans can't think that things are not good. Zimbabweans can't realize that corruption has run down this country. So in other words, they want to say, if you think that this country is not right and things are not well, you can't think it on your own. It's the Americans and the British and whoever. So that's crazy. That's crazy to think that the people are not seeing and appreciating that this country is in trouble. This country is in the doldrums. And we need to pick ourselves up as a people and as a nation. So the people of Zimbabwe are speaking. And you better listen and respect it than then to build false theories and false narratives so that you unite your people to fight against the people of Zimbabwe on the 31st. That is unfortunate.
We are doing a national event, and surely there must be some resources to be employed. So who is funding you?
No, Zimbabweans are making contributions. Ordinary. What would the funding need? Does it take anything? How much has it costed us to come and have this interview and talk about the message?
Sure, no cent.
No cent. And somebody said, so if you want to bring extra masks, so it means the Americans are going to give you the extra masks. For your own information, these extra masks, people are just doing them in their own homes. Zimbabweans, a lady Zimbabwean was saying to me last week or early this week, she was saying to me, what, Miss Ngaruvume, I can do 10,000 extra masks for you. She says, I'm into sewing. And I've actually started rolling those, and I already have about 4,000 masks ready. An ordinary Zimbabwean. So why do you think that whenever Zimbabweans want to speak out, then it's somebody sponsoring or somebody would need to support? Not at all. Zimbabweans are just doing this. So the activities and the actions that we are doing require no money. They require no funding. The people of Zimbabwe are just speaking out, and we are taking heed to the call of the people of Zimbabwe. As simple as that. So there is absolutely the narrative to say you are being funded by someone else is false and untrue.
I would want to find the final net product of the protest, something that you would want to see physically standing in if the looters go. But maybe before that, let me just get a clarification from you. You have been also alleged to be joining Thokozani Kupe's camp. I think this is the juncture for you to clarify to our viewers. Yeah. Are you joining Thokozani?
No, I have clarified before and now that we are not. When we engaged in the MDC Alliance, it was a resolution of the National Executive of Transform Zimbabwe. And as another resolution pulled Transform Zimbabwe out of the alliance, and that's the position. So there is not at all any indication or anything that we've been speaking to the Thokozani Kupe faction. Not at all. There is absolutely no such thing going on. And of course, remember, one of the things we are calling for in terms of corruption and what it has done in this country, we've said corruption has killed the economy. All the looting has been in US dollar, and we are demanding that US dollar for everybody beyond 31 July. So in other words, we are saying it's also a product that we want to see, to say beyond the 31st of July, let salaries be in US dollars. We want to make sure that the people of Zimbabwe have access to the US dollar. We want to make sure that looters have gone. We want to make sure that, bad leaders have gone. So these are practical messaging and practical outcomes that we want to see on the 31st.
No, I'm asking you this, President, because initially you said you are open to join any camp in future for the 2023 elections. So let's assume Thokozani Kupe wins the extraordinary Congress presidents and she called you for an alliance in 2023.
I want to join forces with her.
Okay,
plus, it's not even for me to decide, but the political party will make a decision if they reach out to me. So the overall Transform Zimbabwe leadership will decide if...
Post July 31, the looters have gone. They have left office. What's going to happen?
So, what I've said earlier on is, the people of Zimbabwe have got the right to chart and map a way forward that they feel is right. And we feel one of the things that this country has suffered from is that Zimbabwe has been owned by individuals rather than being a country for all. Rather than it being a heritage for everybody, certain individuals feel ownership to this country. So let this country not only belong to ZANU-PF, not only belong to the MDC, not only belong to Transform Zimbabwe or MDCT or Build Zimbabwe Alliance or APA. Let Zimbabwe be for all. Let Zimbabwe be for the business, let Zimbabwe be for civil society, let Zimbabwe be for the churches, labor, and also be for all Zimbabweans indeed. So we envisage a situation whereby all these stakeholders need to map a way forward of how they want to be governed moving forward. It's important. Zimbabweans need to be listened to and heard out. Otherwise, the problem is we feel so much that certain individuals own this country. This is what we are trying to move beyond. So honestly, my view is that's why I proffered the idea of of dialogue. The whole essence of dialogue, genuine dialogue, you see, so now I'm saying genuine inclusive dialogue. You talk of Pollard. Pollard is chaired by President Mnangagwa. He chairs Pollard. He calls the shots. He moderates himself. He does everything, and then it's so it's excluding even other players, and it's also even for political parties. We're talking of business here, we're talking of civil society, we're talking of churches, we're talking of the important stakeholders that build our nation. So in other words, Pollard is completely and exclusively political with strong, heavy-handed political connotations and control and manipulation. So this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about an inclusive initiative that brings every Zimbabwean on board to represent their views on how Zimbabwe should be moved forward. And that's what we are calling for.
I hear you. Mm-hmm. You are, of course, advocating for a new culture of governance. And the people of Zimbabwe will join you in the protest and overwhelming response. Now, the looters are gone, but they still want to know who will be leading this country precisely.
The people of Zimbabwe need to decide how to move forward. The people themselves are deciding by day how they want this thing to go and roll out. It's not about Ngarivume prescribing anything. It's not about any individual prescribing anything for the people. These are the people of Zimbabwe speaking, and let's allow them to speak out. Let's allow them to propose and proffer what they want to see Zimbabwe and where they want to see Zimbabwe going. Their message is clear. We are sick and tired of this situation. We are sick and tired of the mess. We are sick and tired of the corruption, and we are speaking out against it. So that is important.
Mr. Ngaruvume, it was nice talking to you. But maybe before you go, I would want you to tell our viewers your message of hope during this COVID-19.
Zimbabwe, it's never too late. We can come together to protect and defend our nation. And our interests can be protected as a people and as a nation. Zimbabwe is our country. Zimbabwe is our heritage. We are proud of our nation, and we can make Zimbabwe work again. For too long, we've allowed politics to divide us. For too long, we've allowed ourselves to divide to be divided along different political lines, tribal lines, religious lines, denominational lines. This is time for us to converge around issues. Let issues converge us and bring us together. This is our chance. We have a fighting chance on the 31st. Our capacity to deal with COVID will only be determined by our success on the 31st. Let's come out and speak against corruption on the 31st of July. Let's come out to speak against looters and demand that looters go. Let's come out to speak against bad leaders and demand that bad leadership goes. This is our message to the people of Zimbabwe, and we are very clear on that message. And God bless you, and God indeed will protect you on the 31st. God will be with us, and we are going to ask us to continue in prayer as we move towards the 31st, so that all happens in peace, and so that all happens in law and order, lawfully. This is not about violence. We are saying no to violence. There should not any one of us be tempted to participate in violence on the 31st. Let everything be peaceful, and indeed God will hear us. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Here you have it, our viewers, from the Transform Zimbabwe President, Jacob Ngaruvume, who was talking about the 31st of July protest against corruption. He is not mincing his word. He's saying looters must go. But this protest is emphasizing must be peaceful it must be peaceful. And in light of COVID-19 pandemic, we have to follow and adhere to health guidelines. That is of making sure that you go out, if you are going out, with a face mask and you observe social distance, and also share sanitizers to make sure that you try all the minimum health guidelines. Until next time, thank you for following News MTV. Do not forget to visit our website www.newzimbabwe.com and also like our Facebook page newzimbabwe.com and follow us on Twitter @newzimbabwe.com.